Solo is better. Everything that is good in life formed by a single person. It always goes to shit when more people come in. Minecraft started with Notch coding his own game up. It came out, it was incredible. It was this innovative, creative idea, and it changed everything. You could argue YouTube's success had some part in it. Maybe it was a timing-based thing. But ultimately, you cannot argue the entire vision and execution was done by Notch. Stardew Valley. One guy in college freaking coding up a game for, I think it was over 5 years. Git. Git was created by Linus Torvalds. Solo. He coded that shit up in 2 weeks. Now, obviously, GitHub and everything that relies on Git ended up as a team effort, of course. But the idea of Git would have never happened if it weren't a solo project. And so by creating something solo, you omit the requirement of agreeance. If Minecraft started as a team of 10, probably 9 of the people would have said no to a lot of the ideas that went into that game. And so let's get into why that is. Why are the best projects made solo? And why do projects get bogged down as time goes on? Well, of course, like I mentioned earlier, too many cooks in the kitchen. When it's a group project, there's so much more there's so much more politics involved than you realize. Everything we create starts from a vision. You can't build something unless you have an idea in your head of how you want it to look. And so when Linus Torvalds was coding up Git, he had in his mind, I want it to do this, I want it to be like this. And he coded it up. If he allowed Bill and Jim and Jerry to come in and make their opinions, odds are it would have never went through. People would have said, that's retarded. Why are we doing it like this? Now, it doesn't always have to be that way. It can work out. You can have multiple people on a project and it works. However, there is one requirement for that to work, and that is that you accept that one person is driving the creative decisions. If you have a team of people, the only way that team is going to work is if it's one person that is directing everything. Basically, you need 4 slaves to one master. Or sorry, that's not politically correct anymore. We changed that. Now it's, what is it? What did they change that to? You need 1 primary engineer and then 4 or however many secondary engineers. And so for that team to work out, you need to accept the primary engineer is the one coming up with the creative decisions. The primary engineer is the one that's deciding on things. And it's the job of the secondary to take that person's direction and believe in it. The secondary has to accept that they are not going to intervene. And if they do, they're risking the end result. And so that's why a lot of the best teams, they have a primary that's super stubborn. Think you're Elon Musk, think you're Mark Zuckerberg, you could list off 100 names, Linus Torvalds. These people are not easy to convince. They're stubborn. That's why that works, because they're not going to take a secondary's opinion and integrate it easily. And then you have people that have great ideas. They do have a good vision, but they're nimble. They're going to take a lot of feedback that they shouldn't take because they think they have to, right? Think about all the good shit that came from a solo creator. And if you're working on something with other people, you should be able to quickly, in your head, think who is the primary and who is the secondary. If you realize that you have 2 primaries working on something, guess what? Stop. It's not going to work out. Eventually something is going to turn into a pile of steaming garbage. And you know that. Like, if you're working on a project, you can tell if it's all your ideas, all their ideas, or a culmination. And so if you, as a person, have not accepted to being the secondary, and you view yourself as the primary person, yet you find that a lot of the other person's idea, guess what? You're probably going to end up with a shit product. And like I said, it's not easy. Trust and believe it is not easy. Giving full faith to the primary person is tough. You have to accept that they're going to make decisions that you will not agree with, but you have to go forward as if it's your decision that you agreed with. When you're the one creating, when you're the primary, you have a vision of the output. You have the vision of the end result that the others do not see. And typically, you're thinking way ahead. And so some secondary comes to you and says, hey, I think we should change and adjust this. You're localized on this one thing while the primary is thinking way ahead, man. And so while your feedback might be good, like I said, feedback can be good. Do not give feedback. But make sure that whenever you're giving feedback as a secondary person, you are not intervening on the creative process of the primary person. The primary person is the driver of creative and direction, and you stay in your lane. Don't risk ruining the product just because you feel like you need to contribute. But as with anything you release, it goes through a review process, right? You send it out to a few engineers and here and there. Whenever I do that, I always take technical feedback and I completely disregard everything else. And it's turned out to where I release a very good document every single time, right? Some feedback is good. If there's technical inaccuracies, absolutely. That is not part of the creative process. Right? You need to identify what is part of the creative process and what is part of the product, and then what is just technical know-how. And so in the case of Minecraft, the technical know-how would be like math and vectors produce an output. There's certain defined mathematical characteristics that don't matter to the creative part. If I tell you creatively, I want to make it to where you click and you see a box or a 4x4 cube. That's the idea. That's the product direction. That you should never give feedback on. But if your feedback is, hey, the way we're doing this is inefficient, right? If the output is the same with the feedback you're given, that's fine. And so as a secondary, you should always think to yourself, is this feedback impacting the output? Or is it a way to get us to the output in a more efficient way or a better way, but still get that same output? And so that's the issue I see with a lot of teams. And so you have to disregard Nancy, who's trying to get her skin in the game, right? She wants to go to her manager and say, hey, yeah, contributed to this feature. She doesn't care about the end result. The primary cares about the end result. The secondaries, they're just trying to get their skin in the game. The best shit comes from a solo creator or a team of people that have 100% agreed this one person is the creative direction. We are never going to intervene on that.